Right, hi, thanks for coming. I appreciate the opportunity. Optimizefx is a company that helps organisations enhance their FX trading performance. The objective today is to give you an insight on how this can be achieved, and also for you to give us some feedback on the robustness of our ideas. Just go over the format today. We will look at the foreign exchange market. This is the environment in which you operate. So an overview of that. What is high performance in foreign exchange? This is our kind of template of best practice, if you like. How are we going to get there? The process. What are the benefits? You know, what's in it for you? Why use Optimizefx? And then if we could take the questions at the end, I'll be much obliged. It will not upset the flow this way. If there's any burning desire to ask a question, you know, please do so, but I think most things will get covered as we go along. Thanks a lot. So let's look at the FX market today, an overview. Technology-induced change is the overriding factor. Everybody knows where the price is. There's a sharp rise in forex volumes which are channeled through fewer and fewer banks. You've all probably got more currency pairs than you did 5-10 years ago. It's still sales driven, very competitively so actually, and foreign exchange has risen as a popular asset class. Low capital involved, it moves around, and it's quite easy to access, very simple to understand. There's been an increasing use of trading platforms and algorithms. Don't be put off by this. There's a human behind the programs, and the machines still have stop losses. Okay, so they're still going to have that herd mentality you had when it was just humans trading. So the question is really, I mean, what gives you the edge to compete? You know, there are opportunities. What advantages do you have as individuals? What advantages do you have as individuals working at CIBC that can give you an advantage to the market and opportunities to make money? So our approach to foreign exchange performance is to really develop your trading capability. Let's establish what goals you've got. Look at your current capabilities. Now, this involves individual trading skills, how you work as a team, looking at the resources you've got as an organisation, and how the processes and systems actually support your goals. We'll compare this against a high performance template, and this really is a template of best practice in foreign exchange, and it depends on what your goals are as to exactly how this is formed. We compare this against your current capabilities to identify capability gaps or developmental needs, from which we can then make improvements or seek to make improvements. So what is high performance in foreign exchange? I think the first thing to establish is that you do need to have clear goals. So a high performing foreign exchange team will have clear goals. The individuals will have trading skills which actually kind of are in line, in sync with the goals of the organisation. So if you're very much client focused, you'll have traders who have the right skills to actually implement the client strategy. So people who are very quick at pricing, able to take on risk, manage that risk, form good relationships with the sales team. If your strategy is more towards just trading, just a hedge fund type approach, you may have more quantitative type people on board with trading skills around those competencies. So a high performing foreign exchange team in terms of individual skills really depends on the actual goals and objectives of the organisation. Team synergy, that's the concept where 1 + 1 = 3. A high performing foreign exchange team will actually make use of the team. There are certain or some activities where teamwork is better than individual work. For example, you know, pooling of ideas, coming up with scenarios, what ifs, helping each other out when one area gets busy. Examples of team synergies where 1 + 1 = 3 or more. A high performing foreign exchange team will know exactly what its strengths are as individuals, as a team, and as an organisation. So for example, look at at CIBC, you'll look at your Canadian dollar expertise. What do you have as an organisation which gives you an advantage in this this area. I mean, it would probably be, you'll spend a lot of time researching it. You'll have salespeople with views on the market, dealers with views on the market. Do you put this to best use in the market? A high-performing team will not miss out on long-term moves. They'll capture the short-term moves. They'll have the right risk management techniques to jump on board on any kind of move in this currency. A high-performing team will be aware of its client base and how that can add value to its trading capability. A high-performing team will be aware of other resources such as research capability and how processes and systems can actually be used to enhance your trading capability by freeing up the time to enable traders to concentrate on those things that matter. So we've talked about a high-performing foreign exchange team underpinned by an environment that encourages knowledge and idea sharing, reflection and learning from past experience. Being aware of your current capabilities, leveraging capabilities and resources into advantage is fine, but as we said earlier, the foreign exchange environment changes. If you've got an environment that encourages reflection, learning and knowledge sharing, you can change with the environment. Now you also need a system that encourages and rewards high performance at the group, team and individual level. People need to be motivated, they need to know that they're going to be rewarded if they take on that extra responsibility and risk or put that extra effort in. Finally, you can have all the skills in the world, you can have all the competencies, brain power. If you're not confident, mentally tough and aware of the emotions that relate to high performance, you won't be able to convert this into profit. Foreign exchange is a tough game. There are times when decisions don't go right immediately. What do you do when it goes wrong? Do you make decisions which actually... Are you able to make decisions in stressful situations? Are you confident enough to take risk? This kind of thing underpins foreign exchange trading performance. Now I'd like to hand you over to Andy, who's going to talk about the qualities of high performance in sport. Now, I'm using sport as a metaphor to foreign exchange. I think there are some important similarities. So Andy, if you'd like to talk about the qualities of high performance in sport. Thanks.
We'll look at the qualities of high-level performers. High-level performers need to be mentally tough and they need to be emotionally intelligent. Mental toughness is about having a resilient self-belief. Self-confidence has been called the guardian angel of successful performance, and we know that when we are winning we tend to feel self-confident. The mentally tough athletes can maintain a level of self-confidence, of self-belief, even when they have performance slumps, and it is this ability to maintain a resilient self-belief in your capabilities to deliver high standards of performance which is what the mentally tough athletes can do. You need to be highly motivated. It's about each day setting very, very high standards for training. It's about trying to achieve those standards. It's about reflecting on how you can improve your performance, changing the way you're training, changing the way you're performing, trying to do different things. It's about taking feedback, using that feedback to modify what you're doing and thereby improving your performance. But it is part of a belief that by continuing to put the efforts in, performance will improve. We know that performing on the big stage is going to create pressures. It's going to create a very strong emotional response. It's about an attitude that thrives on the pressure of performance. It's about seeing all those potential stressors, the size of the crowd, the amount of the prize that's available, the importance of the competition, the extent to which achieving that important competition meets your own personal goals, meets the goals of people who value you, who you value as very important. It's about seeing that time when you're going to perform and seeing it as an opportunity. It's about relishing in the challenges. Mentally tough athletes can do that. The less mentally tough tend to struggle at the key times when they need to perform to their best, or even perform near their best. It's about accepting anxiety is normal, and every single individual who has performed in a high pressure situation has run the tendency to become very nervous. Some people accept it as nervous, see it as a positive feature of their preparation. It helps tune themselves up to say the anxiety signals to them that this is important and I need to take care of how I perform in order to achieve my goals. Anxiety can be very beneficial, but it also can be very debilitating performance if anxiety turns to fear, and the whole performance becomes threatening. People stop taking risks around trying to achieve stop taking risks around their performance and start performing in a very inhibited way. Related to that will clearly be concentration. Concentration is all about focusing on the parts of performance that matter. And whilst that might seem quite obvious, it's easy to be distracted by focusing on irrelevant material. And we know that as we get emotional, that is one of the factors that will happen. That emotions tend to force us to be concentrating on the wrong things. And an example being that is athletes who get very nervous start feeling very tired. Well, it's not that they're physically tired, it's a tendency for emotions to focus very internally, so we concentrate on our body far more than we would do because we're very sensitive to that, and therefore start interpreting symptoms from exercise as being very, very fatigued. We need to be emotionally intelligent. We need to be aware of our emotions and how these influence performance. When we were successful, how did we feel? Were we very excited? Were we slightly anxious? Some people will be slightly more anxious than others, but everyone has an emotions performance link. It's exploring your individual emotion performance link and then becoming aware of that and then trying to get into the emotions that are associated with your successful performance. It's about the awareness of others' emotions. Few things operate in a solely individual level. Even the most individual sports are not truly individual because as part of the preparation, most athletes have coaches, and part of that coach is therefore there's a coach-athlete interaction. There's a sort of a team. It's about the awareness of others' emotions to build positive working relationships with people. And if one person is stressed, how you react to that person and how that person reacts to you will influence your emotions, how you'll then treat your next situation. And something we all can relate to in that. So if someone comes in as very angry, that can set the tone for the group, in that it can set the people become very defensive, or someone else can get very angry in response to the original person. And so the awareness of others' emotions is something very important in working with teams. The ability to psych yourself up and calm yourself down depending on the situation, again, very important. Some tasks require a great deal of calmness, even though they're very important, and the tendency is to become very nervous. If the task is very complicated and very complex, you need a lot to think about lots and lots of things, that's typically associated with feeling very calm. Because when you're calm, you can draw on different parts of your mind much easier than when you're very nervous, when you tend to be focusing on a single thing. So you need to recognize the right emotional state for the situation and be able to get yourself into that accordingly. There are many examples of mental toughness in sport. These two quotes from these two superstar elite athletes possibly exemplify mental toughness and emotional intelligence better than all. Muhammad Ali's quote, "Only a man who knows what it's like to be defeated can reach down to the bottom of his soul and come up with the extra power it takes to win when the match is even." In other words, when physical capacity is very close, he draws on his personal resources, his resilient self-belief that he can draw on those resources, that there are resources to be drawn on. So when his body is screaming fatigue, screaming to slow down, he's saying that in order to win the contest, he overrides those sensations of fatigue to draw on extra energy in order to get the goals he desires. Be resourceful. It's about not taking a defeatist attitude. It's positive self-talk that you can achieve something, and it's not accepting that you don't have the resources in order to do that. Look at Michael Jordan. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. The reflective process which Michael Jordan must go through every time he fails, the analysis of his performance in terms of his emotions, his concentration, his skill, his preparation, how he stood, what he was attending to, must be a very involved experience, because clearly he has succeeded far more times than he's missed, and clearly he's an absolute superstar of basketball. He knows his failures, but he's learnt from his failures, and he's dug himself out in order to be able to come back from those and perform to the highest level repeatedly. We could look at examples of athletes who have failed to be able to learn from those experiences. Unfortunately, the English soccer team represent a classic example where they won't reflect on their experiences to take penalties in important competition, and therefore don't learn from that experience, and don't therefore improve their performance in the next competition. There are a whole host of strategies that can be used to develop mental toughness. One is developing positive self-talk. Absolutely vital for developing a robust sense of self-confidence. The second is appropriate goal setting, to be able to set challenges to enhance your motivation, to be constantly striving to improve your performance. A third is mental rehearsal, the ability to simulate the stressors of achieving highly desired goals. And the fourth is the control of emotions, to practice getting your emotions to meet the situational demand. So if you need to be excited, practice becoming excited. If you need to reduce anxiety, practice reducing anxiety. These are techniques that can be learned, they can be practiced, and anything that can be practiced can be improved.
Thanks, Andy. Well, that made sense, and I personally see a lot of similarity between foreign exchange trading and sports. But these are some of the traits that we've got from research done from the behavioural finance body of thought, and that is things like emotional stability, discipline, cooperation, self-awareness, decision-making ability, and low overconfidence. These are all facets of mental toughness and emotional intelligence. If we just go through them briefly, the emotional stable trader is a guy who is unflappable. If it goes wrong, he sticks to his strategy. He doesn't run his losses. He can cope with losses. He actually learns from what went wrong and adjusts his performance the next time accordingly. If it goes right, he doesn't actually start jumping on top of the desk thinking, saying I'm the best trader in the world. He sees it rationally. He knows when to add to positions. He has a strong sense of self-worth, and his self-esteem is not tied up in the outcome of the market, which means that he's able to cope with losses much more easier. Doesn't cut profits too early. Has a low illusion of control, accepting that the market is a random set of events. And his position in it is really to grab those movements when he can. His self-esteem is stronger than his self-confidence is stronger than what just the market. Discipline, cooperation. This comes from a Thomas Oberleck, guy called Thomas Oberleck, no bollocks what his name is, fuck it. It's desire, it's motivation, it's sticking to the game plan, sticking to the strategy, having a contingency plan if things go wrong, highly motivated, able to work with other people, cooperate with other people in the team. Self-awareness is once again a facet of emotional intelligence, where you can recognise the emotions that relate to high performance, recognise the emotions that you know are symptomatic of low performance. You know your strengths, your weaknesses, seek feedback from others, self-assured, you can cope with stress, and you're decisive. You can make decisions. And this is the fourth major trait we found: decision-making ability, able to make decisions, confident enough to make decisions, confident to take losses. You can make decisions in a stressful environment, and you're confident enough to back up your view by taking risk. Very important aspect. Final one is low overconfidence. This is a fine line between being confident. You need confidence, but if you are overconfident, there is a tendency to cut your profits too early, run losses, think you are invincible, and a high overconfidence is associated with high illusions of control. So you think pretty much think that you can influence the market, and your self-esteem is very tied up in the outcomes of the market. We look at some typical scenarios which can go wrong when you don't exercise discipline and control and emotional stability. First three come from a thing called prospect theory, which says that people are more averse to taking losses than they are to taking profits. So you've seen it when people take excessive risk when faced with a loss. So you've got $5 in it, you're 10 points out. Suddenly to scramble that back, there's a bit of over trading, and suddenly you've got $30 in it. Didn't really stick to game plan. Reluctant to take losses, moving the stop loss down. Once again, emotions can take over. A feeling of invincibility. The kind of rationale, the planning behind it has gone out the window. Profits taken too early. We talked about that early. People will leave a position offside for a big figure, and when it gets 5 pips in court, that's it. They cut it. Status quo is when you're always a particular way, and that's a kind of facet of human behaviour which is irrational. And often I've seen traders buy dollars, cut themselves out, and immediately go back in and buy dollars. Now, if you stopped out at 70 and you go back in at 70, that's not really making a rational trading decision. You might as well it's the same thing as not having a stop loss in the first place. Herding, safety in numbers. This is a scenario where people feel much more at ease joining the trend. You've heard the trend is your friend thing, and it's a kind of it's a good reason why team positions can sometimes not work too well, or the synergy you'd expect from having 3 minds coming up with different scenarios sometimes can only result in it being effectively less than the 3. Because if 1 or 2 people have a good idea and they're going to go with it, the third person might think, "No, I've sod it. I'll go with it just because I feel safe." There's more risk, or more perceived risk, of actually kind of going against the market, going against the mode of thought, than actually joining it. So what are these scenarios? What are the strategies to build discipline, emotional stability, and self-awareness? Well, a lot of it is in the preparation, and one thing we look at is something like being aware of your moods. How is my mood this morning going to affect my performance today? Now, if you wake up in a real bad mood, you just have to ask yourself, how's that going to affect my trading? We talked about the ideal states of trading, and that's really a positive attitude, confident attitude, willing to take risk, seeking positive feedback. If you're in a stinking mood, how's that going to affect your performance? Mental rehearsal. How am I going to feel when a bank asks for a two-way or a customer asks for a two-way and $50? And if you're not prepared mentally, it's going to come as a surprise, and you risk then going into the panic mode. A panic mode, rationale goes out the window, and you become subject or exposed to things we talked about earlier. Not cutting your losses, not being disciplined, taking profits too early. You need to get into that state where you're aware of the kind of state of mind you need to be for quoting in that amount, if that's not your normal kind of position size. Built into that is the awareness of key levels and what is. If you go into each day knowing exactly what can happen and where the key levels are, if it goes through a level, you know what may happen next. You won't know exactly what's going to happen next, but you know what may happen next. You are at least aware of the potential scenarios and more prepared. Another solution is to accept that most of the time you have no idea why the market is moving a particular way, and that goes against the culture of having to explain moves on a kind of minute by minute basis to a client base. You can still do that, but in terms of trading, you have to accept that most of the time you've got no idea. You perhaps see 1-2% of the market. Not enough to know exactly what's going through. There's so much things going through. There's stuff going through on economic fundamentals, some stuff going through on charts, stuff going through on just stop losses and other trade flows. Your job is to occasionally you'll get windows opportunity when it all fits together and the strengths you have will fit with what's happening in the market. Then it's time to exploit it. But if you don't have that, you've got to accept that the market's not. You got to accept that you cannot beat yourself up. We don't know what's happening. Finally, to build in an objective, constructive reflection on your performance. This is a very important aspect, and it actually kind of starts to enhance your self-awareness. It starts to improve your ability to learn from mistakes, learn from good performance, in a way that you can modify your trading strategy and how you compete in the market. So we look at the feedback loop, and this really applies to individual trading. It applies to team activity and organisational activity, tying very well with the knowledge and learning slide we talked about earlier. Be objective, don't be too harsh. How did I perform? How did I improve? What worked well? There's a thing called hindsight bias, where things become obvious after the event. So if you wanted to buy dollars a couple of days back and you thought the risk, are you only 55-45 in favour? When it goes up, what normally happens, or what I've seen a lot happen, is that you beat yourself up. It was obvious that it was going up. Why didn't I buy dollars? And the reason you find it obvious is because of the benefit of hindsight. That 55-45 becomes perceived as being it was an 80-20. Why didn't you buy when you're 80% sure? Well, you weren't. You're 55-45, but you beat yourself up saying you're useless. Coming the next day, objective. How can I improve next time? Now, what you could say is, well, maybe next time I need to be 55% sure that something's going to work and it will work. Much more positive than saying it was 80-20, why didn't I do anything? So let's look at the process of getting there. We talked about a high performance environment. How do we actually kind of get there? The first thing is to establish your goals. What do you want to achieve from your client base? What do you want to achieve from your trading capability? And the two are kind of linked, because you'll be taking on risks when quoting clients, and therefore that will shape your trading capability. So we will look at what you've got to work with. We look at your individual skills. We will look at team skills, the resources you have as an organisation, in the context of what goals you're trying to achieve. And this will be using qualitative and quantitative methods. So we'll, in the form of questionnaires, there'll be a degree of self-assessment. It will be interviews, structured interviews, and it looks to measure the kind of things that we think and you think are important in or need to be there to achieve your goals. Things such as self-confidence, emotional stability, specific trading skills, the skills that will underpin the key success factors that you need to deliver for your clients, or the skills that need to get you to trading in a certain way, taking on more longer term positions, for example, if that's where you want to be. What are the processes that support this? Is there technology which we can use to support this? So the solutions are based on comparing what you do now against what comparing what you do now against the high performance template. Changes can be implemented, and we will review to see it's all work. This service really is about establishing the skills and processes that underpin high performance in foreign exchange. It's saying if you improve these skills and processes and competencies, then profits will result. But we want to make sure that it's all worked. Now, what are the benefits? Well, it is a proactive approach to performance management. As said, it looks at things which underpin performance. It looks at self-reflection, learning, and being able to constantly adapt to an environmental change or changing the way what matters in foreign exchange. But the objective is also is so that you can actually do this yourself. Take what we've given you, implement it yourself, and evolve as a learning company which seeks self-development, seeks performance improvement. So the other benefits are that you get improved confidence and self-belief. We've talked about that. Greater focus and discipline in the markets. If we can stop the odd howler, that could save you considerable money. It's not just stopping the odd howler, it's the vicious circle which often results from one bad day. You know, I've often seen traders have one bad day which wipes out 3 or 4 days. Now, to get back on road after that, to bounce back from that kind of day requires confidence, it requires self-belief, it requires better to avoid that in the first place. Better to have greater focus and discipline in the markets. And a trading strategy that exploits strengths. So we look internally, we look at your strengths. How can they be used to our best advantage? What have we got which gives us advantage over XYZ bank? And we'll exploit that. So why use Optimizefx? Well, we've got fresh eyes. We provide a unique angle. We use kind of lessons learned in sports psychology with business experience and knowledge, with ideas and solutions that you may not been aware of yourselves. So it's a unique angle. We do know the business. We understand the pressures. We've been there. It's our full-time job. We focus on you. We've got loads of time to focus on you. We're confidential, and we're aware of a need for minimum disruption to trading activity. We can't take you off the desk for hours on end. This has to be done around your needs, but at the same time we need to actually kind of emphasise that we need, you can't get a decent take on what's going on in 5 minutes, but we're flexible enough to kind of not disrupt your trading activity. So the summary, we looked at the foreign exchange market as a highly effective, efficient marketplace, one where the only real way to compete is or if you're going to compete in such an environment, you may as well put your best strengths to use. If you're going to, in other words, if you're going to run in a marathon, why run 2 stone overweight? Get slimmed down. Let's put your strengths to best use. Let's look at what you've got and put it to best use. Let's compare this against what can be done, or the benchmark of high performance, and see if we can improve. Right, how we get there is a structured look at structured analysis of your resources and capabilities, individual skills, team skills, whether or not you're leveraging organisational resources, and with the benefits being that this process, you learn from this process, this becomes yours. It's a system that enables you to regularly update your skills and trading capability. You'll have great focus in the market. Stop the howlers, improve profits. Why Optimizefx? We talked about that. This is what we do. We can provide a fresh approach. Thanks a lot for your time. I hope it's been of use to you. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them, and also if you had any feedback, it'd be very much appreciated. Thanks guys, cheers.